Okay, so I suggest we get started. Hi again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm so happy to end the day with a little bit of bookmaking that we can do together. So just to introduce myself, my name is Anaïs Grateau. I know maybe I see a few familiar names in the attendance. If you don't know me, I work for the university library system, more specifically for archives and special collections. I'm their preservation coordinator. My office is not on campus, it's on in our facility on Thomas Boulevard in Point Breeze. But this is not where I am at the moment. Right now, I'm joining you from the Text and Context Lab. It is located on the third floor of the Library, and I have two co-workers with me at the moment. So that's why I'm wearing my mask. I hope you can hear me okay. And this space, so it is not open at the moment. It's a collaboration between the university library system and the Center for Creativity. And maybe you heard of it already. It's a maker space. It will be accessible to students, faculty, and staff. It is entirely dedicated to book art and text manipulation. It's really a space dedicated to creative work when people will be able to come and learn all types of techniques, printing techniques, paper making, bookbinding, paper marbling, calligraphy, any type of book art you can think of. And at the moment, all our programming is virtual, unfortunately. But I really hope that we'll be able to welcome you very soon in our space. And I hope that in the meantime, this workshop will be the next best thing. So what we're going to do together tonight is two little books. So feel free to ask questions in the chat if you want to. Feel free to turn on your camera if you want to. You don't have to turn it on. Really, whatever makes you feel comfortable. And just so you know, this is being recorded. So if you want to, watch it again later, if you miss a step, that would be possible. And also put together written instructions for you. So this way, you'll be able to recreate what we're doing together. And this way, you can decide what you want to do. Either you can make at the same time as me, or you can just, watch and then try to recreate on your own after. I really want, you to feel free to basically do whatever you want. So the first thing we're going to do, let me show you. So it's what's called a dos-a-dos notebook. This is what it looks like. And I'm also going to show it on my second camera in case it makes more sense. I'm not sure. But basically, so it's a small notebook, but actually it's two notebooks in one. Dos-a-dos means back to back in French. And it's just because these two text blocks are back to back. So I'm going to show you how to make one. So the first thing you should grab is if you have cardstock or thin cardboard around you. So me, what I did is that I just cut a folder. So, it's vaguely thicker than regular paper, but not too thick. It's kind of flexible. And so you are supposed to cut a rectangle. It should be 11 inches by 4.5 inches. And this rectangle is going to be our cover. So I will just wait a minute or so if you want to go grab your cardstock. And if you want to cut this rectangle, again, it's 11 inches by 4.5 inches. If you don't have cardstock, if you couldn't find any, what I recommend is that you can still, experiment with me, just use paper instead. It won't be as satisfactory, but I think, especially me, when I learned something new for the first time, I don't mind using scrap paper and, let's say just junk. And like this way, I know I learn the technique, and after I do it again later with nicer paper. So grab your cardstock and also grab a stack of sheet of paper that we'll need when we make the text blocks. So again, for those of us joining us, so we're going to start by making our cover. It's made of cardstock or thin cardboard, and we're going to work on a cover that's 11 inches by 4.5 inches. Okay, so the first thing to do is you're going to take a ruler and a pencil, and you're going to measure. I think you should be able to see on my document camera. Maybe not that great. Let me adjust this. So you see you have your cover like this. You're taking your ruler and a pencil, and what you're going to do is measure 4 inches. Like this. You measure 4 inches at the top and 4 inches again on the bottom, just to make sure that your line will be straight. Okay, so you have your cover, you measure 4 inches. And then what you do, there is no need to draw a line, but I'm going to place my ruler like this on the 4 inches mark. And then, if you see what I'm doing with my hand, I'm just like lifting the flap like this. And I bring it all the way up against the ruler, like basically just to fold it. Okay, so I have a fold now at 4 inches in again. So me, I'm going to use a bone folder. It's a bookmaking tool, like to make the fold crisp. I assume maybe if you're at home, you don't have a bone folder, which makes plenty of sense. What you can do is use your ruler as a bone folder, like this, to just make sure that your fold is nice and crisp. Another trick, if you don't have a bone folder, is to use a popsicle stick. It can be a good tool as well. And it's also a good excuse to eat popsicles because, you know, you need them for bookmaking. So this is our first step. We created that flap. It's 4 inches. Pretty easy so far. But actually, this is what I like with this notebook, that it's rather easy. Okay, everyone okay? So if everyone is okay, this is the next step. Then you just flip your cover on the other side. Okay, so you still have your fold there, but just ignore it. We don't care about that side anymore. What now we're going to do is measure 4 inches again, but on the other side. Let me show you. And we're doing exactly the same thing, like 1 dot at the top, 1 dot at the bottom at 4 inches. You place your ruler again. And then you do the same thing. You lift gently the cardstock, you bring it all the way up against your ruler. And then you have your second fold. Again, you can use a ruler, bone folder to make it crisp, or if you don't have any of these things, you know, just your finger. And then you end up with a structure that should look like this. Like a Z. Yeah, perfect. When you look at it, you can already see where our 2 text blocks are going to be put. One here in the first fold and one here in the second fold. So now it's the time to make our text blocks. So you can grab sheets of paper. It can be any type of paper. It's better if it's on the thin side. So for instance, the type of paper you would just use for a printer. And we're going to cut a few sheets. So what we need now is to cut little rectangles of paper again that are 5.5 by 4 inches, 5.5 by 4, and you need either 8 or 10 of them as you want. So since cutting paper can take some time, you know, if you just want to do 8, that's perfectly fine. What's important is that this should be 5.5 by 4 inches. Okay, and I'm just going to mention the next step for those of you who are, you know, ready or almost ready. So I told you can cut like 8 or 10 little sheets of paper. So whatever number you chose, you divide this in 2. And you make 2 stacks. So if you chose 8, you would have 2 stacks of 4. And if you chose 10, you have 2 stacks of 5. So take your first stack and fold it in half. To create like a tiny, to create what's called a signature is when you have several sheets of paper stacked together and folded. So this is what it should look like. And I'm going to do it again with my second stack. And just make sure when you fold it in half that, you know, the corners are like nicely lined. And again, you can use your ruler, your bone folder to kind of like make the fold better looking and crisper. And now basically we have all the elements of our books. We just need to put them together. We have a cover and we have the 2 text blocks. And actually when you, okay, let me try to use this camera to see if it's better. Maybe. So you see this text block, one of the text blocks, let's say, will go here in this fold, and the other will go here in the second fold. So you can see how it works. So maybe you noticed that this paper, the text block, and the cover, they're not exactly the same size. The cover is actually a little bigger. It's on purpose. It's like when you have a hardcover book, the text block is a little smaller because the cover needs to protect the book. So what we're going to do is kind of like try to see like how this text block could fit nicely in the fold. So ideally, you know, you would like the same distance at the top and at the bottom. You don't need to measure it. It just, you know, you can kind of like eyeball it. But the idea is that the text block will be, you know, will take place here in this fold. Does it make sense? So now it's time to find a way to attach the text block to the cover. So for this, we're going to need some thread, a needle, and something pointy. So I think maybe for you, the easiest would be to use a thumbtack, or me, I'm going to use bookmaking tool. So I'm just waiting for a minute or so if you need to go grab it. And also, if you happen to have one lying around, something that can be useful is a paper clip or binder clip if you have some, but again, it's not mandatory. Just if you have a paper clip, it can help you keep your text block in place while we make the holes. But again, it's not a big deal at all if you don't have it. So you see, I kind of position my text block so that there is a little bit of space at the top, a little bit of space at the bottom. And like this fold is really like at the same space as the fold in the cardstock and in the cover. Hope it makes sense. So next step is figuring out how we're going to make the holes in our paper and in our cover. So for this, you have two methods. You can either completely eyeball it, which is, always good if you feel confident, or you can measure if you'd rather have something a little neater. So your sheet of papers, they are like 4 inches. From here to there, you have 4 inches. So what I recommend is first make a dot in the middle, so at 2 inches. If you're eyeballing it, just try to find the middle. Then make another dot at 1 inch at the top, and then 1 inch. Let me show you. I think it would be easier. So basically, I'm going to draw very big dots so that you can see, but you don't need to make giant dots like I did. So basically, I put one dot at 1 inch, another dot at 2 inches, and another dot at 3 inches. What's important is that one is roughly in the middle, and one is more at the top, but not on the edge, and one is toward the bottom, but not on the edge either. So now that this is done, we're going to puncture 3 holes through the paper and the cover. So me, since I'm in the lab, I have a cutting mat, which is very nice. I would recommend being careful if you use a thumbtack to puncture the holes. I don't want you to, damage your table, but more importantly, I don't want you to hurt you. So something you can do is if you have an old notepad you don't care about, you can use it to protect your table. If you have cardboard, you can also use it. I know that sometimes people use a sponge to make sure they're not damaging their table. This is also a good trick. And if you don't have any of these around, just be extra careful when you puncture the holes. So what's important when you make the holes is really trying to make sure that the text block and the cover really don't move. And then that you really go through all the layers. So a cutting board, a cutting board front would be a perfect idea. So I'm going ahead, making the 3 holes. Like this. Okay, and so again, make sure you're going through the paper and through the cardstock. Something I like to do to make sure the holes are big enough is I take a needle and I poke through the holes to make sure I can actually go through. And if needed, you can wiggle your needle around a little to make the hole slightly bigger. So take your time to make these 3 holes. If you're already done with this step, the next step is going to be the sewing. So it's time to take a needle and some thread and to thread your needle, which to me is always the trickiest part. About the length, cut your thread so that it's roughly 2.5 the height of your text block. So I would say, it should be around 10 inches. And, maybe it's better too much than not enough, especially, if you're a beginner. So yeah, try to cut around 10 inches and thread your needle. And there is no need to tie a knot. So just, thread your needle, have your holes ready. I'm just going to wait a few seconds to make sure everyone is good to go. But what's really good with this notebook is that we're going to do the same thing again on the other side. So even if you feel a little lost at the moment, I think you'll be perfectly good when we do it again. So take your thread and needle, and we're going to start through the middle hole. We're starting from the inside of the book. See, my book is open. And I put my needle in. Okay, I pull the thread. And so what's important is to make sure that you keep a tail inside of the book. The tail should be roughly 2 inches. This is what's going to help us at the end to make our knot. So while we want our binding to be tight, always make sure that you keep this tail inside your text block. Me, I like to just keep my thumb on it. So this technique we're doing, it's a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. I think it's one of the easiest binding technique, but to me it's very elegant and very pleasant, very pleasing to do. Okay, so we are still on the middle hole, but outside. So this time you move to the next hole. It can be the one at the top, the one at the bottom, it doesn't matter. Move to one of the hole close to you. And you go back inside. Like this. And again, remember to always keep that tail. Okay, so now that we're back inside, we're going to travel to the other side of the book. So skip that middle hole where the tail is, just ignore it for now. And you go to the other one. And as you pull, make it tight, but always check that your tail is still in place. And now we're almost done already. This is why this technique is so nice. So we're going to travel back to the middle. And go back inside. And so the only thing to be careful of is that when you exit your needle, sorry. I'm actually struggling myself telling you to be careful. So just make sure that when you exit your needle, it's not on the same side as your tail. So basically you have the tail, the rest of your thread on the other side, and in the middle you have this long stitch. Hope it makes sense. And then at this point, well, you're done. You can remove your needle and make a knot. And you don't need to do anything else. So I'm actually going to make a double knot for good measure. And then you can just trim it. And it's attached. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So you take your second stack of paper, remember you make the 3 dots. So one in the middle and one more at the top, one more at the bottom. So it can be at 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches if you want to measure, to get something like this. Then the next step is that you position nicely your text block like this inside your cover, making sure that there is a little space at the bottom, a little space at the top. If you have a paper clip, feel free to use it, like to keep your text block nicely in place. Then again, if you have a thumbtack, you can use a thumbtack. If you have an awl, anything pointy, just be careful not to hurt you, not to hurt yourself. You puncture the 3 holes. You grab a needle again, you thread it. And as I said, I always like to make sure that the holes are wide enough by kind of like wiggling my needle. And so we're going to do the 3-hole pamphlet technique again, but we're going to do it slightly differently. So we're still going to start on the middle hole, but we're not going to start from the inside of the book. We're going to start from the outside. So again, middle hole, we start from the outside, we go inside, just be mindful that your text block stays nicely in place, which is not my case right now. And as you pull your thread, also make sure that you keep a tail of about 2 inches on the inside of the book. Okay, so you're inside, you move to another hole, it doesn't matter which one, it can be at the bottom, it can be at the top. You move there, go back out. Make sure it's tight, but also make sure to keep your tail. Then when you're inside like this, skip the middle hole. Just go to the other hole, the one we didn't work on yet. Up. Okay. And now the next step is to go back through the middle hole and exit. And remember, make sure that you exit so that your tail is on one side and the end of your thread on the other one. So, and you have that long stitch in the middle. Up, you don't need your needle again. You can just tie a knot and trim. And so if you notice, the first one we did we started from the inside and the knot is on the inside. The second one we did, we started from the outside and the knot is on the outside. So basically it's entirely up to you which one you prefer. So I think what's nice if the knot is on the outside is that it can be part of the design of the book, especially if you're very good at making, elegant bows. What's nice if the knot is on the inside is that I think it's less fragile. So if you want to have your notebook in a backpack or in your purse, it's more protected. So we're almost done already. So the only thing left to do is that if you notice, you have flaps sticking out on both sides. So the only thing left to do is just to flap them, to fold them over like this. So presumably your notebook right now is rather puffy. If you want it a little flatter, feel free to leave it underneath a book overnight and it will be way flatter tomorrow. But yeah, we basically made a Dosado notebook. And of course, right now I'm just using plain paper and plain cardstock. But I could have tried to make something a little prettier. That is just to show you like the technique. Also, like if you want to make another one yourself, I really encourage you to experiment with colors, different types of papers, dimensions. Like the other day I made a tiny one like this. If also you still think it's too puffy, you can put a little Velcro dots on the inside. And as for the content, I think if you're into storytelling or any type of writing, this can be a very cool format. I can imagine, telling a story from two different point of views. Or maybe like telling a story on one side and then drawings on the other side. I was thinking something cool to do would be a to-do list with on one side the chores you don't want to do, but on the other side, like your rewards, activities you're really looking forward to. And you can also play with the design of the book. Like I tried to make one here with like little stars on one side and like this chessboard on the other side. And something else I was thinking is also like instead of using white paper, you can print pictures and make a little photo book. So I don't know, I think this is really a cool format to play with. And yeah, I got all excited about Dosado notebook and it's already 5:45. So what I suggest is I'm going to go over more briefly the next one and kind of like show you the structure of it and show you how it works. And once you understand how it works, it's very easy, I think, to do on your own. And again, if you missed a step of this little notebook, I put together instructions that I will send to you. I have all your emails since you're registered, so you will receive them in the next couple of days. So the next book, and again, I know we said the workshop was only 1 hour, so I will be mindful of not going over too much. I will just tell you a little about the structure. So the second notebook that I wanted to show you is called a Concertina Notebook. A concertina is a type of musical instrument. It looks like an accordion, and it's because the spine of the book is like a concertina, like an accordion. And what's kind of neat with this type of notebook is that you have no binding of any kind. The only thing you need to make it is basically paper and glue. So that's rather neat. So I'm going to show you the structure. I'm going to tell you how to make one. So what you need this time in terms of papers, you need 8 sheets, and each of them need to be 8.5 by 3.5 inches. If you have, so I would say, it doesn't matter what color, it can just be 8 white sheets. If you have one that's like colored, you can use it for the spine if you want to, but it's entirely up to you. So yeah, so 8 sheets like this, 8.5 times 3.5. And while you do this, I'm just going to grab a sip of water. So me, for instance, I'm going to use like a blue sheet for my spine, but then I will use 7 white sheets for my pages. And while you're cutting your paper, I'm just showing you. So this is what the spine of the book looks like. So it looks like just a little paper accordion. And what's kind of neat this book structure is that the pages are just glued to each mountains of the accordion. So yeah, when we're going to make this fold, just so you know, so like, like an accordion is made of like pointy parts, so I call them mountains, and then the hollow parts I call valleys. So I know maybe you're not all ready. For those of you who are ready, just something easy to do. So remember I told you one sheet will be your spine. So this you can just set it aside. And the 7 other sheets, you can just fold them in half. Let me show you. So you have these long sheets, and just one by one, you can just fold them in half. Just something easy to do while everyone is finishing to cut their papers. And like for this type of book, you can use basically any type of paper, like just, the type of paper you would use for a printer is good enough. You can also use thicker paper. So yeah, so basically you have 7 sheets folded in half. So these will be your pages, the pages of your concertina. And now, okay, let's make our spine, the accordion concertina spine. And again, I'm sorry if I'm going a little quickly over the second one, but everything is detailed in the instructions. So to make the accordion spine, there are multiple techniques. I'm sure that when you were little, when you were making like little fans out of paper, you were just folding, zigzag style. That's perfectly fine, except that it's kind of hard to do I would say, a neat job this way. So I think one of the easiest way to do it, and one of the neatest way, is, okay, so you have your sheets of paper like this. You fold it in half, like this. Okay? Then you fold again toward the middle fold, like this. So I just took this and folded it over. And I do the same thing on the other side. So you end up with something like this, a W or an M, depending on how you look at it. Okay, so let's say it's a W. It's this way. Reverse this fold, like it's a valley, you're turning into a mountain. Basically, you're just pinching it. And then you fold toward the middle fold, like this. And this last little part, you fold it again toward the middle fold. If you're a little lost, I'm going to do it again on the other side. This way you will see neatly. So you have this valley, you turn it into a mountain by pinching it. And you bring it down against the middle fold like this. And this last part again, you fold to reach the middle fold. And you end up with a rectangle like this. So it already looks like an accordion, but it's not enough because you see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll have 8 little panels, and we want to double this. So each of these panels needs to be folded again. So what I like to do at this stage is kind of like flatten it like this. And then each panel, I fold it in half. So basically, I'm bringing this down to the next fold. And then I use the fold I already made. Then I bring this part to the next fold. So basically for each panel that already exists, you're creating a fold and using the existing fold. I hope this makes sense. I kind of rehearsed that part, not because I don't know how to do it, but because I think it's hard to explain. I think if you play with the paper a little, like it will come to you. Like it's basically, yeah, keep in mind, we're just making an accordion. And if you do it neatly, at the end, you should just have a very thin, not a very thin, a very neat rectangle. So see mine, for instance, is a little bulky. But this actually is something good to practice. It's funny, like I think it looks so simple. And you know, kids are making this all the time, but it's very hard to make an accordion really straight, an accordion fold. Okay, so let me see in the comments. Okay, so if you succeeded, you should have something like this. And so this is going to be, it worked, yeah, awesome. We're going to, so this is going to be our spine. So let me just show you how it's going to work. So we're going to work on this side where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you have 7 mountains. And you see we have 7 pages. So, and you have 7 mountains, and on the side, you have these 2 little flaps that are left. So what we're going to do, and I swear it's not tricky, we're going to take one of our pages. I'm not sure I said this before, but when you have a page folded like this to create 4 pages, it's what we call a folio. So the only thing you need at this point is just glue. And you don't even need like fancy glue. Yeah, I took a purple glue because I thought it would be easier for you to see on the screen. And actually, I was amazed. It kind of matches my nail polish. That's another subject. I'm amazed that it's actually quite strong. So what you're going to do is open your folio. If you have a little bit of scrap paper, maybe that can be good to avoid putting glue all over your table. You're taking your glue and you're just going to put like a thin layer like this on the inside. This shouldn't be more than 1/2 inch. It should be quite thin. And maybe, yeah, be generous, but not too much. And then, so again, you have this first flap, the beginning of the next mountain, just ignore it. What we want to work on is this first mountain. So you position your sheet of paper like this. This should be the same size, roughly the same size. And then you just apply pressure like this. And then you do the same thing. Just a thin layer of glue. And if your pages were cut properly, this should fit nicely. Like this should arrive just at the beginning of your next mountain. So you see you have this first flap with nothing. And then the mountain, and this is our first page. Okay, let me show you with the second page. And maybe what I will do, since it's already almost 6, I'm not going to attach all the pages since it's always the same. I will just give you a few tips if you want to add covers. But I think same thing, it can be, a nice little notebook to put together if you have, like colored paper. Up. So you see you have your first page like this, and then you just keep going. You flip your mountain, put glue on the other side. And okay, I realize I forgot to fold my paper earlier, but you get the idea. I think once you get the process started, it's kind of intuitive. The only thing kind of hard, I would say, is so first making the accordion spine and making sure that the paper or the sheets are at the same level. But let me show you one that's completed. So again, so this is the spine. And on the inside, each page has been attached to a mountain. And what I like is really when you look at it from the top, you can really, it opens entirely like this. So it's pretty neat, I think. So again, to complete, you keep attaching your sheets of paper until you reach the last mountain. And the last thing you have left is a little flap. And then what you can do is that you can attach covers to make your notebook a little sturdier. So for this, you can use cardstock, the same type of cardstock that we used to make the Dosado notebook. It's perfectly fine. You can use something a bit thicker. And then, of course, you don't need to keep it blank like this. You can, decorate it with stickers, with drawings. You can collage. So me, I had leftover wrapping paper from Target. So this is what I used. This is what I use for my covers, but you see it's just cardstock in style. And yeah, I can show you. So if you wanted to attach your cover, and it will only take 2 minutes. I swear, I know a lot of you presumably have Zoom fatigue and don't want to spend too much extra time on this. But just once you attach all your pages, what you can do once you have your cover is, so the idea is that you're going to attach your cover like this to the mountain. So you can use glue. Ideally, what I would recommend is actually double-sided tape, because it's stronger, and also there is no moisture. So again, once you attach all your pages and once you decided what you want for your cover, I'm just grabbing some double-sided tape. I think it's something you can find rather easily. So what I would do is that I would put, let me see. Yeah, I would just put like some tape like this. Again, on that flap, on the outside of that flap. Then I remove the protective part. If I can, you know, it's like threading a needle when someone is watching you, and it takes forever. Then what I would do is that I would just make sure that this is nicely lined up. You know what? Actually, I have a one that's completely made already. I'm going to attach the cover on this one as well. So you can see a second time. Put the tape like this. You attach the cover. And then inside, so you have two options. You could, if you want, completely cover your cardstock with anything you want. Something I think is kind of cool is using another paper inside. So for instance, here, what I would do is just grab, I don't know, I think I would grab the a paper of a different color. Let's say something like this. And then what I would do is that I would measure this space, left, and then attach. Same thing, presumably using double-sided tape, because it's thicker, it's stronger. But yes, I'm sorry, we didn't really have time to go through like attaching all the pages together. But again, it's always worked the same way. I think the tricky part is managing to have it, to make the accordion fall in a nice, elegant, and regular way. And then after, it's just about, you know, just gluing all this together. Let me just go through the chats. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much. So again, you will receive instructions. Also, this workshop was being recorded, so it will be accessible on our website. Feel free to go through it again. I hope you had a good time. Honestly, it was awesome meeting all of you, even if it's remotely. I really hope I can meet you in person at one point and we can have workshops together. Thank you for bearing with me, wearing my mask and my French accent. And yeah, I really had a lot of fun showing you all this. So thank you. And thank you, Eric, for monitoring the chat. And yeah, everyone had a good night. And please take care of yourself and stay safe. Bye-bye.